We told everyone Christmas morning is at your place. Be ready by 8, my mom texted. Your sister's kids get the big rooms, so keep yours out of the way. I replied, no one's coming here. Dad sent a laughing emoji. By dawn, the alarm was armed. The doors were bolted, and at 8:03 a.m., my family found security. Standing on the walkway. Inside my house, pancakes were cooking. My kids were opening gifts. Christmas music was playing low. The tree was lit. The coffee was hot. Outside my house, my mother was arguing with a security guard. My father was calling my phone for the 9th time, and my sister was screaming into the Ring doorbell camera that I was ruining Christmas for her children. I turned the volume down, flipped the pancakes, poured another cup of coffee. Here's the thing about Christmas morning. Mine was planned for me. My cousin Rania texted me on December 3rd. It said, hey, what time should I come on Christmas morning? Your mom sent the menu, looks amazing. Should I bring anything? She attached a photo, a handwritten menu in my mother's handwriting. Turkey, ham, 3 sides, 2 desserts, homemade rolls, a specific brand of cranberry sauce, and at the top, my address, my house, my kitchen. I stared at that photo for a long time. I hadn't been told anything about Christmas. Nobody had asked me. Nobody had called. Nobody had texted me a single word about hosting. My mother had written out a full menu, assigned my home as the venue, and sent it to 37 relatives before sending a single message to me. She didn't ask if I was available. She didn't ask if I wanted to host. She didn't ask what my plans were. She announced. I texted Rania back, I think there's been a mix-up. Let me check with my mom. Then I waited, because I wanted to see if my mother would tell me herself, or if she'd just assume I already knew, or if she'd assume it didn't matter whether I knew or not. She texted me the next day, not a call, a text. We told everyone Christmas morning is at your place. Be ready by 8. Your sister's kids get the 2 big rooms upstairs, so keep yours out of the way. It's only one night. They'll be fine. I read that text 3 times. Your sister's kids get the 2 big rooms upstairs. Those are my children's bedrooms. My daughter Hannah's room, with her bookshelf and her drawings on the wall and her stuffed animals lined up on the windowsill. My son Kareem's room, with his airplane models hanging from the ceiling and his nightlight plugged in by the door. My mother was telling me to move my kids out of their own bedrooms, in their own house, so my sister's children could sleep there instead. Keep yours out of the way, in their own home, on Christmas. I put the phone down, walked to my daughter's room, opened her closet, and there it was, the air mattress. Still folded in the corner. Still there from last Easter, when my sister's kids took Hannah's bed and she slept on that mattress on her own bedroom floor. She'd asked me a week later why it was still in her closet. I didn't have an answer. I just never moved it. Maybe because part of me knew this was going to happen again. I closed the closet door and went back to the kitchen. Let me tell you what's happened in my house over the last 3 years. My mother has designated my home as the family gathering point 4 times, 4 major events. She picks my house because it's the biggest, because I have the most space, the best kitchen, the most parking. She picks it the way someone picks a venue from a list. Not because the owner wants to host, because the square footage is convenient. Christmas 2 years ago, 18 people. I cooked for 2 days. Turkey, sides, dessert, everything from scratch. My sister arrived an hour late with a bag of grocery store dinner rolls, set them on the counter like she was delivering a peace treaty, and posted on Instagram. I always bring the best part. Her kids ran through the house for 6 straight hours. My kids ate after everyone else because there weren't enough chairs at the main table. Hannah sat on a step stool in the kitchen eating off a paper plate while her cousins sat at her dining table. At the end of the night, my nephew knocked a framed photo off the hallway wall, glass everywhere. It was a photo of me and my kids at the beach, the first vacation I took them on after my divorce. When I mentioned it to my mother, she said, "It's just a frame, Ethan. Don't make it a thing." It wasn't just a frame, but I didn't say that. I cleaned up the glass and threw the photo away. Easter, last year. 22 people. I cooked again. My sister's youngest, who is 4, left the back gate open. My dog, a beagle named Charlie, got out. We spent 6 hours looking for him. 6 hours of driving around the neighborhood, calling his name, checking shelters. I found him 3 blocks away, shaking, hiding under a parked car in a stranger's driveway. Nobody apologized. My sister said her son didn't know the gate was important. My mother said, "Dogs run off sometimes. It's not a big deal." Charlie slept in my bed that night, trembling against my leg. I stayed awake until 2 in the morning with my hand on his back. Thanksgiving. 14 people. Someone spilled red wine on my couch, a full glass, deep into the cushion. Nobody claimed it. Nobody offered to clean it. I paid $200 to have it professionally cleaned. My sister's husband sat on the stained couch the entire day watching football, eating food I cooked, drinking beer I bought, and didn't say a single word to me except, "Can you turn up the volume?" 4 events in 3 years. Total cost to me, just over $6,000 in food, supplies, cleanup, and damage repair. 0 reimbursements, 0 thank yous, 0 offers to split. 0 conversations about whether I wanted any of this. And now my mother wants a 5th. On Christmas morning, in my house, with my kids in the basement. 2 weeks before Christmas, I was tucking Hannah into bed. She was lying under her covers, holding the edge of her blanket the way she does when she's thinking about something she's not sure she's allowed to say. "Dad? Yeah? Do we ever get to have our own Christmas? Like, just us?" She wasn't angry. She wasn't whining. She was asking a genuine question in the same voice she uses when she asks about weather or homework. Like she wasn't sure if their family, just the 3 of them, was allowed to have a Christmas that belonged to them. I sat on the edge of her bed for a while after she fell asleep. She was 9 years old, and she had already learned that Christmas in her house meant giving up her room, eating after her cousins, staying quiet, and sleeping on an air mattress so someone else's kids could be comfortable in her bed. That was the moment. Not the text. Not the room assignment. Not the $6,000. Not the broken photo or the lost dog or the wine stain. My daughter, in her own bed, asking me if she's allowed to have Christmas in her own home. I decided that night. And once I decided, I didn't go back. I texted my mother the next morning. "No one's coming here." 4 words. No explanation, no negotiation, no counteroffer. My mother didn't reply for 2 hours. Then she sent, "Don't be ridiculous, everything's already arranged." My sister texted 10 minutes later, "Mom said you're being difficult. The kids are excited. Don't ruin this." Don't ruin this. My sister, who has never hosted a family event, who has never cooked a holiday meal, who has never cleaned someone else's wine off someone else's couch, who once brought a bag of rolls and called it a contribution. That sister was telling me not to ruin the event that was happening in my house, in my kitchen, using my food, using my kids' bedrooms, on my dime, without my permission. My father sent one thing, a laughing emoji. One emoji. That was his entire response to his son setting a boundary. Not a call, not a question, not "what's wrong" or "let's talk about it." A laughing face, as if the idea of me saying no was so funny, so impossible that it didn't deserve words. My mother followed up that evening. "We'll see you at 8. Don't be dramatic." Don't be dramatic. The phrase my family uses like a fire extinguisher. Every time I raise something real, they spray those 3 words over it and walk away. They didn't believe me. None of them did. Because I had never said no before. Not once in 3 years. I had absorbed every event, cooked every meal, cleaned every mess, paid every bill, moved my kids to the den and the basement and the air mattress, and smiled through it. Every time. So when I said no, they heard a tantrum. They heard drama. They heard something that would blow over by Christmas morning when the doorbell rang and the guilt kicked in, and the old Ethan showed up with the turkey already in the oven. They were wrong. Over the next 2 weeks, I made my moves quietly. I called a private security company, explained the situation simply. Family gathering I didn't agree to, people may show up at my home uninvited. I need 1 guard on the walkway Christmas morning from 6 a.m. to noon. Professional, polite, on 1 instruction. Nobody enters without being on the approved list. The woman on the phone asked, "And who's on the list?" "Nobody," I said. She paused. "Understood, sir." I changed the alarm code. Tested every door, every window, the garage, the side gate, the back porch. Checked the Ring doorbell camera, full charge. Clear lens. Night vision working. Motion-activated recording enabled. Then I did the part that actually mattered. I went grocery shopping. Pancake mix. Fresh eggs. Real maple syrup, not the cheap stuff. Bacon, thick cut. Orange juice, hot chocolate mix. Whipped cream in a can because Kareem thinks spraying it directly into his mouth is the funniest thing in the world, and I'm not going to be the one to tell a 6-year-old he's wrong about that. I wrapped presents. More than usual, because this year, for the first time, they'd be opening them in their own living room without being rushed or pushed aside or told to wait until the cousins were done. I put them under the tree. I set out stockings. I hung one for Charlie the Beagle because Hannah made it in art class last year and it's the ugliest stocking I've ever seen and I love it. I planned the morning down to the last detail. Pancakes first, blueberry for Hannah, chocolate chip for Kareem, then presents, then hot chocolate on the couch, then a movie, then lunch whenever we felt like it. No schedule, no timeline, no 37 people arriving in waves, no air mattresses, no basement, just us, just home, just Christmas. And I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. Not my mother, not my sister, not my father. Not a single one of the 37 people on my mother's list. Christmas morning. 6:15 a.m. I was already up. Coffee brewing. Christmas music playing low from the speaker in the kitchen. The tree was lit in the living room. Presents stacked underneath. Stockings full. Hannah came downstairs first. She stood at the bottom of the stairs in her pajamas, looking at the tree. She didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then she said, "Is this just for us?" "Just for us," I said. She smiled. Not a big dramatic movie smile. A quiet one. The kind that starts in the eyes. Kareem came down 5 minutes later, already running. He dove into the presents like they were a swimming pool. Wrapping paper went everywhere. Hannah sat cross-legged on the carpet, opening hers carefully, reading every tag, lining up each gift beside her. I started the pancakes. Blueberry for Hannah, chocolate chip for Kareem, plain for me. And the kitchen smelled like butter and coffee and maple syrup. The house was warm. The music was playing. My kids were laughing. That's what was happening inside. At 8:03 a.m., the doorbell rang. I didn't answer. I was at the stove. I already knew who it was. The Ring camera showed my mother standing on the porch, holding a turkey in a foil pan. Behind her, my father with 2 shopping bags. Behind him, my sister with her 3 kids, all of them in matching Christmas pajamas. Her husband standing at the back, hands in his pockets. And between them and my front door, a man in a black jacket. The security guard. Standing on the walkway with his hands clasped in front of him. "Good morning," he said. "Can I help you?" My mother looked at him the way you look at a locked bathroom door in a restaurant. Confused. Annoyed. I'm certain there's been a mistake. "We're family," she said. "This is my son's house. We're here for Christmas." "I understand, ma'am. Unfortunately, I'll need to check if your name is on the approved list." "What list? What are you talking about? There's no list. This is family. We're expected." "I'm sorry, ma'am. Without authorization from the homeowner, I can't allow anyone past this point." My sister pushed forward. "This is insane. Ethan, tell this man to move." She was talking to the door. The door didn't answer. My mother turned to my father. "Call him." My father pulled out his phone, called me. I watched it ring on the kitchen counter. The screen lit up with Dad and a laughing emoji contact photo I'd never bothered to change. I let it ring out. He called again. Same result. He looked at the guard. I'm his father." The guard nodded respectfully. "I understand, sir, but my instructions are clear. Nobody enters without authorization." My father put his phone back in his pocket. He didn't argue. He didn't push. He just stood there, hands at his sides, looking at the front door of a house he'd never been locked out of before. The laughing emoji energy was gone. What was left on his face was something I'd never seen. Uncertainty. Inside, Kareem was spraying whipped cream into his mouth. Hannah was laughing so hard she almost fell off her chair. I flipped a pancake and poured more batter. Outside, my mother knocked on the door. Hard. 3 times. The way she knocks when she means business. The way she's knocked my whole life when she expects the door to open simply because she's the one knocking. The alarm beeped once, confirming the door was sealed. I didn't move. Over the next 30 minutes, the walkway filled up. My aunt arrived first after the immediate family, carrying a casserole dish with both hands. She saw the security guard and stopped mid-step. What on earth? My cousin Rania pulled up with her husband and 2 kids. She'd driven an hour and 15 minutes. She got out of the car, saw the guard, saw my mother still holding the turkey, and stood on the sidewalk with her casserole looking from face to face like she'd walked into the wrong house. Another uncle parked across the street. Then Rania's sister. Then a family friend who brought a pie. One by one, the 37 people my mother had invited to my house started showing up at a house with a locked door, an armed alarm, and a security guard who told each of them politely, the same thing. I'm sorry, I don't have your name. I can't let you through. And my mother had to explain. To each person, individually. Standing on my walkway in the cold, still holding that turkey pan, telling arriving relatives one by one that the plan had changed. That Ethan was being difficult. That there was a misunderstanding. But she couldn't explain why the door was locked. Because explaining why meant admitting she never asked me. Admitting that she texted 37 people my address and a menu without checking if the front door would be open. Admitting that she assigned my children's bedrooms to my sister's children and told me to keep mine out of the way. So she just kept saying, "He's being difficult. We're figuring it out." While the guard stood there, while the Ring camera recorded, and while the turkey slowly got cold in the foil pan she refused to put down. Rania looked at the security guard, looked at the house, looked at my mother. She put the casserole back in her car, buckled her kids in, and drove away without saying a word. 2 other families followed within minutes, then a third. An uncle shook his head, got in his truck, and left. The family friend with the pie said, "I'm going to Denny's," and that was the last anyone saw of her. My sister was not quiet about any of this. She walked up to the Ring doorbell camera, leaned in close, and spoke directly into it. She knew I could hear her. "Ethan, open this door right now. You are ruining Christmas for my children. They are standing outside in the cold because you want to prove some point. My kids are crying. Open the door." I was in the kitchen. I could hear every word through the speaker. Hannah looked up from her plate. "Who's that?" "Nobody," I said. I turned the volume down, flipped the pancakes, poured Kareem more juice. My sister tried the side door, locked. She walked around to the back gate. The second she touched it, the alarm triggered. Loud, sharp, the kind of sound that makes an entire street look out their windows. She jumped back. A neighbor 2 houses down stepped onto his porch. Another one pulled back a curtain. Christmas morning on my street just became a security event. Hannah heard the alarm. She walked to the living room window. Outside, she could see her cousins. Maya's 3 kids, standing on the lawn in their matching pajamas, confused, cold. The youngest was holding a stuffed reindeer. Hannah's cousin Layla saw her through the glass. She waved. Hannah waved back. It was a small moment. 2 kids on opposite sides of a window, separated by a decision their parents made for them. Layla didn't understand why she was outside. Hannah didn't fully understand why the door was locked. But they both understood enough to wave. I watched from the kitchen doorway. I didn't tell Hannah to move. I didn't explain. I just stood there for a second, feeling the weight of it. Then I said, "Pancakes are ready. You want more blueberries?" She looked at the window, looked at me, came back to the kitchen. She chose the warm room. By 9:30, most of the relatives had left. Rania was gone. The uncle across the street had driven off. The aunt with the casserole left after 45 minutes of standing in the cold. My sister was sitting in her minivan with the engine running, her kids in the back, her husband in the passenger seat staring at his phone. She hadn't spoken in 20 minutes. My mother was still on the walkway, holding the turkey. She hadn't put it down once, like letting go of it would mean admitting the morning was over. And my father. My father had separated from the group about an hour in. He walked to the edge of the driveway and sat down on the curb. Not yelling, not calling, not sending emojis, just sitting. He sat there for a long time, staring at the house his son bought, the house he laughed about losing access to, the house he sent a single emoji about, as if his son's boundary was a joke too small to type out. He didn't knock again. He didn't try the door. He just sat on that cold curb on Christmas morning, and for the first time, he looked like a man who was starting to understand that a laughing emoji costs more than he thought. The security guard stood nearby, quiet, professional. He didn't approach. He didn't rush anyone. At one point, he walked over to my father and said, "Sir, there's a diner about 3 blocks east that's open this morning. I can give you directions if you'd like." My father looked at him, looked at the house, didn't move. Inside, we watched a movie. Kareem picked it. Some animated thing about a dog who saves Christmas. He'd seen it 4 times already. He laughed at the same parts every time. I could mouth some of the dialogue by now, but I didn't tell him that. Hannah sat on the couch with her new stuffed animal, a gray cat she named Pepper. She held it against her chest and pulled a blanket over both of them. Charlie jumped up and curled into the space between her and the armrest. She put one hand on the cat and one hand on the dog, and looked like a kid who had everything she needed within arm's reach. I sat between my kids with my coffee. The wrapping paper was still all over the floor. The plates from breakfast were still on the coffee table, smeared with syrup and scattered with blueberries that had rolled off. The tree lights were still blinking. The house smelled like bacon and maple and coffee. My phone was in the kitchen drawer. I hadn't looked at it since 8:03. This was the morning Hannah asked about. This was the Christmas she wanted to know if they were allowed to have. Pancakes in their own kitchen, presents under their own tree, a movie on their own couch, no cousins displacing them, no aunt rearranging their rooms, no grandmother assigning them to the basement of their own house. Just us, just home. At some point during the movie, Kareem leaned against my arm and fell asleep. His mouth was still sticky from the whipped cream. Hannah looked over at him, then at me. "Dad? Yeah? This is the best Christmas." She said it quietly, the way 9-year-olds say important things. Not dramatically, not trying to make a point. Just reporting what she felt, simply, like telling me it was raining outside. I nodded. "Yeah, it is." She went back to the movie. Kareem drooled on my sleeve. Outside, by then, the walkway was empty. The security guard's shift wouldn't end for another hour, but there was nobody left to guard against. My mother's car was gone. My sister's minivan was gone. My father's curb was empty. The only sound outside was the wind. That evening, after the movie, after lunch, after Kareem built a fort out of cardboard boxes and Hannah read half a book on the couch, I opened the kitchen drawer and took out my phone. 43 missed calls, 91 text messages. My mother, "I hope you're proud of yourself." My mother again, an hour later, "You humiliated me in front of the entire family." My sister, "My children cried, Ethan. They stood outside your house in the cold and they cried. You did that." My sister's husband, the first and only text he's ever sent me? "Not cool, man." My father? Nothing. No texts. No voicemails. Just the original laughing emoji from 3 weeks ago, still sitting in the chat like a monument to a joke that stopped being funny at 8:03 this morning. Rania. I drove an hour and 15 minutes. And I wish someone had told me. My aunt. This is not how family works, Ethan. My uncle. Your mother is devastated. 3 cousins sent variations of the same message. What happened? And then, near the bottom of the group chat, posted 4 hours after the last angry text, one message from my cousin Dina. Honest question. Did anyone actually ask Ethan if he wanted to host? No replies. The chat went completely dead after that. Not because people didn't see it. Because everyone saw it, and nobody had an answer that wouldn't prove her point. I closed the phone, put it back in the drawer. I didn't reply to any of it. Not because I was angry, because the locked door had already said everything I needed to say, and a locked door doesn't need a follow-up text. My mother called the next day. I picked up. She said, "What you did was cruel. Ethan, you locked your family out on Christmas morning, in the cold, with children." I said, "I didn't lock you out. I locked us in." She went quiet for a few seconds. You planned Christmas at my house without asking me, I said. You told my children to give up their rooms. You sent my address to 37 people before you sent me a single word. And when I said no, Dad sent a laughing emoji, and you told me not to be dramatic. You could have just told us you didn't want to host, she said. I did tell you. I said no one's coming here. You said don't be ridiculous. That's because I thought you were being dramatic? Silence. I'm your mother, she said. I shouldn't have to ask permission to come to my son's house. That, I said, is exactly the problem. She hung up. I put the phone down and went to check on my kids. Or that night, I put my kids to bed. Kareem was out in 30 seconds. I pulled his blanket up, moved an airplane model off his pillow, and turned on his nightlight. Then I went to Hannah's room. She was already asleep. Pepper the stuffed cat was tucked under her arm. Her drawings were still on the wall. Her books were still on the shelf. Her bed was hers. Her room was hers. I stood there for a moment looking at her. Then I opened the closet. The air mattress was still there, folded in the corner, right where it had been since last Easter, when my sister's kids took this bed and Hannah slept on the floor of her own room. I pulled it out, carried it downstairs, walked it through the kitchen, out the side door, into the garage, set it next to the trash bins. I stood there for a second, looking at it. A folded piece of plastic and fabric that weighed almost nothing but meant everything. It meant my daughter had learned to expect less in her own home. It meant she knew at 9 years old that when family came over, she moved. She adjusted. She made room. She slept on the floor of her own bedroom so someone else's kid could sleep in her bed. It meant I had let that happen, more than once. And it meant that part was over now. I walked back inside, closed the door, locked it, armed the alarm. The house was quiet. The tree was still lit in the living room. The wrapping paper was still on the floor. Charlie was asleep on the couch. Kareem's cardboard box fort was still standing in the corner, slightly crooked, with a crayon sign that said, "No grown-ups." And for the first time in 3 years, every person who lived in this house was sleeping in their own bed, in their own room, after their own Christmas. Not my mother's Christmas, not my sister's Christmas. Ours. A locked door doesn't argue. It doesn't explain. It doesn't negotiate. It just stays closed. Is that cruelty, or is that the only language some people understand?